Good morning. Welcome to our spring town hall, to those of you who are joining us here at Explorer Drive and on YouTube Live. I'd like to just outline what we're going to do today. We have a guest speaker, a little bit different than our past practice, from the north, actually the northwest part of the province, and I'll introduce her shortly. We will be presenting our second annual Telecommunicator of the Year Award, and Rob Jaguar and I will provide some updates on a number of projects that we have underway right at the moment. And then we'll have the opportunity to do a question and answer session. So to start us off today, we have the privilege of having a guest from northwestern Ontario, specifically from Marathon. And most people at Ornge have ventured north of Highway 7, so I don't have to tell you where Marathon is. I think you all know. It can't be said of a lot of Ontarians, but certainly our folks generally have spent time in the north. Marathon is, as you know, on the shore of Lake Superior. It has a population of approximately 3,200. And in past town halls, we focused on the patients that we transport and that we care for. But we thought it would be interesting to hear the perspective of a care provider from the north. And to that end, we couldn't be more fortunate than to have Dr. Sarah Newbury with us. Dr. Newbury is a presence on Twitter. If you haven't seen her handle, she's at Sarah Newbury 1. S. Newbury 1, I should say. She describes herself as an optimistic, rural family physician, wife and mom in northwestern Ontario, and I can tell you that as I follow her on Twitter, I can see that her passion about high-quality care is evident. She's been a collaborator with Ornge. Homer Tien has had interactions with her, and so she continues to be a very valuable voice. And we've asked her to spend some time with us electronically today to talk to us a bit about how Ornge impacts her patients and her practice. So Sarah, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. I'll start by just doing a quick sound check. Maybe Joshua, you can tell me if you can hear me okay.
I can hear you perfect, thanks.
All right, great. And I want to say thank you, first of all, for the invitation to share a little bit with you today. Thank you, Joshua, for reaching out, and thank you for that lovely introduction. I have been in the community of Marathon for 22 years almost now, which means that I've been here since the days prior to Ornge. And I've had lots of occasions over the last several years to fly in your choppers, to fly in your fixed wing and your charter aircraft. I have hung out in your hangar in Thunder Bay. I've eaten food from your fridge and drunk your coffee at 3 a.m. and have been really grateful for the window into your work that all of those experiences have given me. I think my most frequent reason for going on transfer with you is for obstetrical patients, and so I've learned not to count the time from our helipad to Thunder Bay's helipad in minutes, but rather in contractions, and it's really 15 to 20 contractions, depending on the labor, to get from our helipad to Thunder Bay. And I'm grateful every time you and we together manage those transfers safely. I've been asked to share a little bit about my experience as a rural healthcare provider and your impact on our work here. And I thought that I would do that by holding up to you the mirror that is your mission, vision, and value statement. Because I think there is lots there that really informs the work that you do and the way in which you support us to do the work that we do here. So your mission really is to provide Ontarians with safe and timely access to care through transportation to healthcare services. And in that mission, you are not that different than most of Ontario's healthcare providers who are all striving to provide safe and timely access to care. But I think what makes you unique as an institution, as an agency of care, and where you matter to northern and rural citizens is that you are focused on providing that access for all Ontarians. And in that, you are an agency of equity in the province. For those of you who've been in this corner of the world, and for your paramedics who are online and your comms people who are aware of the distances, you know that there are citizens in Northern Ontario who can't access even sometimes quite basic services. Ultrasounds, basic lab work. For the community of Marathon, we can't access CT scans, cesarean sections, appendectomies, in a timely way without you and the services that you provide. So you are, through your mission, an agent of equity in this province, and that is particularly important for northern and rural citizens who have historically been a population left behind by the healthcare system. And I think your mission is tremendously important for us. I think there are two other key things that you do for rural and northern citizens and healthcare providers. And those two things I see coming to life in your vision, which is to extend the reach of healthcare. And you do that for us, first and foremost, by bringing resources, human resources and equipment resources to our communities, which are, for the most part, quite resource poor, both in terms of equipment, but also in particular currently in terms of human resources. And I want to share with you a little bit of a story from last week that I hope will help you to see how the work that you do in that way makes a difference to us. And that story is the story of Brian, a 63-year-old man on my call shift, my overnight emerge shift last week. And the call came in at about 5 minutes to midnight from his son that his dad, Brian, had a seizure, a witness seizure. Our land paramedics were deployed within 6 minutes. They were there. He had 2 further seizures there and was brought to our hospital where he continued to seize. We initiated medications and were very aware that he was going to need to be transferred to tertiary care and that to accomplish that safely, he would need intubation. But he didn't need intubation in that moment. And with only myself and 2 nurses, and I did call in a second physician, but with only a handful of us there, we elected to wait to intubate him until your skilled paramedics, your additional equipment was in our department. And with your base physician looking quite literally over our shoulders and watching the work that we did, supporting us with our process, our safety checklist, our approach to that intubation with your skilled paramedics, with your additional equipment, we were able to accomplish an intubation, I think, in a safer way and in a more confident way than we would have been without you. And that kind of scenario is lived over and over and over again, I think, across Ontario's northern and rural communities. You bring resources to us that enrich our capacity, and that matters profoundly to patient care and patient safety. I think the other thing that you do that's in your vision for extending the reach of healthcare, to Dr. McCallum's point about conversations with Dr. Chen, we've been talking a bit about how might we work collaboratively across the system with Ornge to deliver education to local rural healthcare communities, paramedics, nurses, and physicians. With your paramedic Carla Gagnon in Timmins, we've been talking about the modified scene response and how we might support small hospitals to be able to resuscitate and package faster, knowing that Ornge is on its way. Through your policy work, you've supported us to do a better and more consistent job of medication mixing and flow rates. And that allows a much more seamless process in transfer of care from a patient who's lying on the stretcher in our emerge department to that same patient who's on a stretcher in your chopper or aircraft. So that reach of education, that reach of policy, that support that you're offering to rural and northern communities and the healthcare providers who work here is profoundly important, and I believe is making a significant difference in the way in which we can deliver care to the patients that we serve together. So those are 3 of the things that you do, and those are really important, but almost more important in some ways is how you do that work. And that, I think, really comes alive in your value statement, and it's not surprising to me that an organization that is based in the aviation industry would have safety and preparedness as 2 of its fundamental values. And I see that lived in your organization at every step, from the communications group with standard questions and safety questions that you're asking, from your flight checks and your weather checks to the way in which your paramedics enter our emerge departments and proceed to do care with their checklists and their highly, highly prepared bags of equipment. And that matters. All of that helps to ensure that our patients and our healthcare providers in transfer accomplish the care and the transportation in a way that ensures safety and as good an outcome as we can. The last thing that I want to touch on is your 3 last values, because I think they also are really important to healthcare providers. Your commitment to excellence, integrity, and compassion. And those 3 things matter. I want to focus on compassion, because I see that as something that clearly we all need to be living in our lives as professionals and in organizations in our approach to patients. But I see you living that and aspiring to live that in your approach to healthcare providers as well. And that's profoundly important. And I'm going to come back to the story of Brian for a minute and tell you that what I've shared with you so far, 63-year-old guy, 2-3 seizures at home, ongoing seizures in our emerge department, here's what we've done, difficult intubation, we're going to need to accomplish intubation for transfer. The basics of that story is what I would share with your comm staff. It's what I would share with your base hospital physician. It's what I would share with your paramedics when they come into our department. But the parts of the story that I don't share are that I've known Brian for 20 years, the entire time that I've been here. He's the butcher at the local grocery store. I probably see him every couple of weeks when I go there. I don't share with you that I cared for his wife when she had breast cancer and we provided all of her chemotherapy locally. I don't share with you that I attended the birth of his first grandchild here in Marathon. I don't share with you that the son who called in that call is wheelchair-bound and has cerebral palsy and can't come to the emerge department because he can't leave his house without his dad being able to drive that vehicle, his wheelchair-accessible vehicle. So in between my phone calls to you and connecting with base hospital by virtual critical care, I'm in touch with his son at home to let him know how his dad is doing. I don't share with you that I have a palliative patient who's dying on the ward. I don't share with you that we were just called by a Gravida 11 patient who believes she's in labor. And so all of those things are going on in the background, both in terms of the logistics of the care we're providing in our hospital, but also the background of my own emotional response to a difficult situation as a healthcare provider. And as I was thinking about your role and your work with us, I found myself reflecting on the number of times that I am a bit embarrassed to say, have been irritable on the phone. I've been chippy in the middle of the night when it's felt like, can we just get through these questions faster? Can you just give me an ETA now? Can we just package this patient and send them more quickly? Because my emotional connection, and I think the emotional connection of many rural healthcare providers to the patients that we serve runs quite deep. And there's I think a layer of urgency that we sometimes experience because they're not John Doe to us. They're people with whom we live our lives, with whom our lives are entwined. And increasingly I'm aware that when you as an organization respond to us as healthcare providers with not just excellence and integrity, but with compassion, you support all of us to continue to do the work that we do better. And I've heard your comms people say, I'm so sorry, this is going to take a couple of minutes. I know you're frustrated. I will go through these questions as quickly as we can. I know there's urgency. Your base hospital physicians who come into our room by video conference, who are able to say, okay, wow, this is a really hard situation. You're doing a great job. When your paramedics roll in and say, take a break, we've got some stuff to do, we're going to work it from here. And those kinds of responses that acknowledge the challenge of the situation in which we find ourselves reinvigorate us. They allow us to continue to move and also respond with compassion to the other patients that we need to continue to see as we do our jobs in our small hospitals. So I want to commend you on those value statements. I think that you have an opportunity in aspiring to be partners in compassionate care, not just for our patients, but for healthcare providers. You have an opportunity to enrich us all and to improve the care that all of us provide, not just in terms of the technical bits, not just in terms of the logistical bits, not just in terms of the safety, but in terms of the way in which we respond to one another and as a team together to our patients. And for that, I'm really grateful. And I think I'll conclude by taking the liberty of speaking for all Northern physicians and say thank you for the work that you do. Your work every day makes a huge difference to us. And the work that you aspire to do, the work that you are proposing and thinking about in support of rural communities, I think is a tremendous asset and a tremendous opportunity to us. And I'm confident that with you and through you, we'll provide better care for Northern citizens. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for your work. I'll stop there. And I'll just say Joshua has a couple of pictures to put up. They are actually from the morning flight from my patient Brian, who went out last week.
Dr. Newbury, I could not have asked for a more compelling and thought-provoking and heartfelt commentary from you, so thank you very much. And I think for our folks, it's tremendously useful to hear the provider's perspective. So thank you for that, and thanks for your collaboration and support. Appreciate it.
Thank you again for the invitation to be with you today.
So we will move on from there to another extremely important aspect of what we do. It is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week this week. And as we know well at Ornge, emergency telecommunicators play a vital role in emergency services broadly and in particular in our service. Whether police, fire, air, or land ambulance dispatch, men and women work tirelessly to ensure right information gets to the right people when it's needed most. Join me in thanking all of the staff in our OCC for their dedication to serving patients. Thank you. And so this is an appropriate time to present our second annual Telecommunicator of the Year Award. This award recognizes excellence in our Operations Control Center. Eligible candidates are communications officers in our OCC in good standing. Ornge staff are invited to nominate individuals based on their overall performance and in their role. This is reviewed by a selection committee, and this selection committee has met and has determined this year's winner. This year's Ornge Telecommunicator of the Year has nearly 18 years of service to Ontario's air ambulance program, going back to the days of Medcom. He is a communications officer flight, currently functioning as a rotor wing planner. He's worked in various capacities in flight planning over the years. But the common thread that runs through his career is his professionalism. He is described as someone who leads by example. In the words of one of his nominators, "Every time he is working on my shift, I know it will be a good and productive shift. His experience helps make great decisions, and he always seems cool under pressure. He is vital to our operation due to the respect he has for everyone and their part in completing a call. You can always count on him because of his dedication for this service that we provide for the Ontario public." So I'm happy to present this year's Telecommunicator of the Year Award to an outstanding employee. Please join me in congratulating Doug Davis. Doug, where are you? Doug, would you come up? We have to stand over here because they want to take a picture of you. Not of me, of you. Yeah. We can, you take that. Okay. And sure we got it around the right way. Yes, we do. Okay.
Where you got to step forward over here?
Okay.
Oh, you have to sign.
We get the sign.
Perfect.
Well done, Doug. Okay. So continuing on the same theme, I'd like to start with some shout-outs to people across the organization who've gone above and beyond. Last week, we became aware that the 791 Ottawa crew had a particularly lengthy call from Kingston, and this resulted in a significant shift overrun. There were logistics and weather issues that contributed, and it was a complex call for certain. Now, I saw this as a type of call that we know is stressful. They can be tiring, fatiguing. But in our world, and we know this, some shift overruns are inevitable. Sometimes the patient's condition or the conditions that are contributing to the nature of the transport are such that we can't avoid it. We review them all. We use TADRAG and SADRAG to do that. But they are part of the field that we've all chosen to work in, necessarily. If a patient's condition demands it, then we go. And that's, I know, the attitude of the people inside and outside this room. So I wanted to say to this crew that we appreciate the work that you do. You're exemplars. We certainly see that among, we see these types of calls in every base. This one was the one that was closest to mine, so it's certainly not unique, but it is something I do want to acknowledge that we do. So that is 791. The second group I'd like to give a shout out to is recognized as a very busy department, but it's one that often doesn't get a lot of credit, and that is the travel department. The travel team handles planned travel, for example, for training, unplanned travel, last-minute hotels for duty outs and repatriations and so on. What you may not know is how much they contribute to keeping our bottom line down and keeping us solvent. They work hard to keep our rates at the optimum level, which is important from the overall health, financial health, at least to the organization. So they do an excellent job in a difficult environment. And despite the fact that our travel volumes are going up, the average ticket, hotel, and car rental costs are going down. They've also, and you may not know this, but you should check, I think it's on Compass, James, will be soon. They've negotiated some discounts that you can access personally. So there will be help for you in your personal life if you want to rent cars, for example, and the like. So that's good news. There'll be more to announce on that in the email newsletter soon. But again, I'd like to extend my thanks on behalf of you all for the work that travel does. The third group that I'd like to offer a shout out to is the base hospital. The Ornge Base Hospital hosted this year's Ontario Base Hospital Group Conference in early February. Members from all of the 8 base hospitals in Ontario and the Ministry of Health attended, as well as the Ontario Association of Paramedic Chiefs. This is the first time we've hosted this event, and it's an important part of growing our relationship with provincial partners. Among our guest speakers at that event were many that are affiliated with Ornge: Dr. Hilary White, Sean Hackett, Dr. Mike Peddle, and Chris Anderson, to name but a few. Years of Service Awards were presented to multiple Ornge recipients: Mahavre Angari, Chris Anderson, Dr. Russell McDonald, and Dr. Bruce Sawadsky. The event was a huge success, and I offer my congratulations to Richard Yell and his team for successfully pulling that off. Finally, I want to recognize 2 people who are retiring. The first is Joanne Oak-Vecchiato. There's Joanne. She's here. She's hiding, is she? Don't hide, Joanne. She is a longtime member of the Ornge leadership team. She joined Ornge in 2009 and has fulfilled a number of different roles here, including the Vice President of Clinical Affairs and Director of Corporate Quality and Patient Safety. Her time at Ornge followed a long career in nursing and healthcare management. I don't know how you could be so young and have done all that, Joanne, but it's remarkable. Joanne has taken the lead on many initiatives over the years: our first patient safety plan, the creation of the patient advocate role, and most recently the Accreditation Canada project, and she has put her stamp on much of the organization. We'll miss her positive outlook and her kindness. She's leaving us at the end of the month, and Joanne, on behalf of everyone here at Ornge, will have more formal recognition of you, I know, before you leave. I'd like to wish you the very best and thank you very much for your contributions to Ornge during your time here. The second person who's leaving is Debbie Fremont. Debbie's here. I thought she had a hockey sweater on somewhere. There she is. the orange sweater is on Debbie. Debbie is a longtime employee, 9-year employee at Ornge. She's a buyer. She handles the competitive quoting process for RFQs. Within the next 2 years, next 2 weeks, not only is Debbie retiring, but she's very much looking forward to being a grandmother for the first time, I understand. So that's exciting. She's going to start her retirement with a cruise in the Baltics with her husband Doug and some friends. I've got good intel, and she'll spend the summer at the cottage with her new grandson. So that's fantastic, and we wish you all the best, Debbie. Now, I'd like to give you some updates from my chair in the organization. The first is that you will be aware, certainly the people in this room, but I think at the bases as well, that we underwent some significant organizational changes a couple of weeks ago. And I want to thank first those of you who are taking on new roles in the organization. The entire reason for these changes is to make our organization more nimble in responding to the front line. We know that the sharp end is important as the essential reason for what we do, and of course the patient is what we're all about. So we want to make sure that we have the people and equipment to take care of patients at the right place, the right time, and that's what this is all aimed at. We want to be responsive and proactive about ensuring the front line has the tools that they need to do their job properly. And so the bases are at the forefront of everything we do and the people that work in them as well. So restructuring our organization will help us to do that. Now, one of the things that I want to emphasize to you is that one of the most notable differences has to do with facilities. We've done a good job, and I've talked to some of you about some of the bases where activity has been underway already to start renovating and fixing bases where there are issues. There's more to be done. And to that end, and Rob will speak a little bit to that, I think, in his remarks, to that end, we've changed the organization so that we'll have a renewed focus to ensure that we get people what they need in an environment that's appropriate for them to work. So we want to accelerate that continually. And again, as I said, Rob will speak to that. Later this month, I will be attending with Homer and some others, some of the other medical directors, a gathering of physicians who work in Canada's aeromedical provider organizations. This is an important group. It's now met. This is the third meeting. We hosted last year's, and it's an opportunity for the transport medicine physicians to exchange cutting-edge ideas about what we should be doing in the aircraft to best care for patients. It's been a very useful fermentation environment, so we can steal shamelessly, share senselessly what other people are doing. This year it's taking place in Halifax, and interestingly enough, we had some paramedics attend an advanced training lab which uses human specimens to train, which is, unfortunately, unlike aviation, there is not yet an ideal simulation for some of the things procedures we need to do to save people's lives. An aviation level D simulation now is so good that, as I understand it, Rob, there are lots of pilots we get on with that may have not flown the aircraft, they've flown the simulator, and the first flight they have with passengers will be in the aircraft. So that's how good simulation is on the aviation side, not so on the medical side. And so working with human specimens under appropriate conditions is I think, very much still an important thing for us to do. And we're going to look at that in Halifax where some leading edge stuff has been done. So that benefits us, obviously, because, and again, for the non-medical people in the room, paramedics know this better than anybody, if you can manage the patient's airway, which is where this critical simulation comes in, everything else you have a little bit of time to think about. But people are kind of addicted to oxygen, and they need to be able to breathe. So that's where we focus a lot of our training with our paramedics, and we know that there are opportunities there to do even better with that training, and that's what we're looking at. And the paramedics that we sent on a test run last year with this loved it. They thought it was tremendous. So I want to go and see it and see how we might adopt it and incorporate it appropriately in our organization. So we'd like to spend a few minutes on northern initiatives. This photo you see here is our PC-12 in Pekanjicum. And as you know, and as Sarah Newbury alluded to, we're a vital link in the north connecting patients to where they need to be. There are many nursing stations in these communities like Pekanjicum that we serve. We're a lifeline there. And we do thousands of transports in these flying communities like Pekanjicum, Fort Albany, Kasheshawan, Attawapiskat every year, ensuring patients get to where they need to be and are properly cared for while they're en route. We have a special focus on our strategic plan on northern initiatives. Remember that 60% of what we do is north of the Great Lakes, and so it's appropriate that we have this focus. So Homer Tien has been doing a lot of work in the north to that end and trying to enhance and actually look at innovative ways to provide even more care in the north. So Homer, can I ask you to say a few words about the work you're doing in the north?
Thanks, Andy. So just thank you for the opportunity to speak a bit about our Northern engagement piece. I think the two major goals that we have with trying to be more engaged in the North is to, one, improve patient outcomes. We know that, as Dr. Newbury said, there's a problem with access to high-quality health care in the North, given the remoteness and the weather conditions. But also, we recognize that the Northern bases, the staff, the frontline staff there, everyone out there are working extremely hard with a very high volume of call. And so we want to try to think of different ways of delivering health care in a timely fashion. So a couple of the things that we're doing are sort of outside the normal scope of a transport company, but hopefully will have an impact both on the quality of care and the patient outcomes, but also on whether or not you're dispatched at 3 in the morning to a call where someone walks onto your aircraft. So one of the things I want to highlight is the iStat project. We all carry iStats, but surprisingly, not to us here, but probably not to the frontline medics, is that many of the nursing stations don't have lab tests. And so as a result, if you have a patient with chest pain, they need to be flown code 4 to a hospital where there's lab tests. So we're partnering with the Northwest LHIN to provide iStat cartridges, point-of-care lab test cartridges to the Northwest nursing stations. So what this has resulted in a significant decrease in the number of chest pain cases that the frontline staff are required to fly out to transport for an evaluation for chest pain. So on a pilot project for 4 nursing stations as of November of this past year, we were able to prevent 27 chest pain flights out of either Pekanjicum, Sandy Lake, Mishkigogamang, or Cat Lake. And so I suspect as this expands, the numbers of patients that are able to be cared for closer to home will increase. The other thing that we've heard loud and clear from people are that there's a problem with dispatch. So, patients are oversold sometimes because there's a sense that they need to oversell to get these patients out quickly. I think with the implementation of a telemedicine project, we're able to have a better sense of the patient. So triage appropriately more quickly if they're really sick, and perhaps downgrade the triage priority if they're less sick. But the feedback, it's sort of a win-win in that the nursing stations are very appreciative of the support that we offer to them in these managing these very sick patients. Some of the other things we're considering are the use of SA carriers for transporting slightly higher acuity patients. We're looking at using ACP land and SA carriers to try to save our dedicated fleets from flying long runs from Thunder Bay to London for transporting patients with cardiac surgery. So this will hopefully leave more availability, but also save our crews for the higher acuity and the sicker patients that we know come up in a non-predictable fashion. So we are thinking of different ways of improving patient outcomes and also managing our limited assets and our frontline staff in the best possible way. So thank you very much.
So I'd like to now turn it over to Rob Giguère, who has some operational updates to offer.
Thanks, Andy. So just a few things to bring you up to date. I think most people are aware, but we put out an RFP recently for a 12th AW139. In answer to the question that has happened many times, does that mean we're expanding our service? The answer is no. It's to cover off the medical interior installation and a paint program that we're going to endeavor to take over the next 2 years. So that RFP closed on Monday, thanks to Gabe and Martin and Tim and his team. A successful outcome. We have 3 proponents that are currently being evaluated, and we'll move forward with that in the negotiation phase pretty soon and give you updates on that. We're hoping to have an aircraft introduced into the fleet sometime by this fall to start the rest of the program, which leads to the medical interior. Another interesting process. We went through the first phase of upgrading that medical interior, and we're unsuccessful, but we've now got to a position where we've got 2 proponents. We're currently negotiating with the first, which is looks like a very good solution. We had our first negotiation meeting with them this week. We'll have another one follow on next week, and we'll be able to give you an update on that pretty soon and give you actually some more details on it, but hopefully we're successful with the proponent and we can move that through, and it'll all line up. Sometimes the stars are on our side, and the timing looks good for adding the aircraft and getting the medical interior installation. Needless to say, there'll be a large burden undertaken by our ops and engineering teams in getting that organized, but they say they're up to the challenge, and we'll give them all the support we can. In terms of NVGs, we can now say that we have completed the NVG installation. YNZ, the aircraft in Moosonee, has had its approved curtain installed now, so all the pilots are trained across the system. We've got a few that are returning from either an absence or new to the organization that are currently in training, but we're operational at all bases, so that's a real milestone, and my thanks to the ops team and those particularly involved in getting the training done. The feedback from the front line has been terrific, and the NVGs are something that are significant for us in terms of reducing the risk in our organization and improving our capabilities. So thanks to everyone involved in that. Facilities, Andy touched on facilities, and as he said, we've done a good job in the past with facilities, and we've changed the focus slightly this year, and we're putting a real push on the front line to improve some of the facilities at the bases to not only provide better facilities but also improved efficiencies. So some of the things that are ongoing right now is we're adding an improved crane in Ottawa and London where we do our heavy maintenance. In fact, I spoke to Ron Laverty this morning. The program there is going well. It's an IO base, but we've taken the initiative to go ahead and improve that and do a lot of fitment and upgrades. We're doing the same at other bases with windows and kitchens and so on. So for those of you out at the bases, you'll see some improvements continuing along the way. Here in headquarters right now, if anybody's walked down the hall there where Catherine Daw works, you'll see that there's a new wall and a new door and a new facility. She's done an excellent job with our drug room, and so good a job that we need actually a little bigger facility and a little better and more appropriate facility. So you'll see that work progressing, and we're really pleased about that and the excellent work that's been done there and in that area and in our management of our drugs internally from within the organization. And scheduling software, which is quite topical because our scheduling systems were quite disparate, and one of them is actually going to become redundant here in the next year. So again, the procurement team went through a process, and then with the help of Greg Kuchar and Dean Mandos and others, and of course obviously the IT team who were instrumental in this, we've selected a vendor for the scheduling system. That contract is now in place, and we're in the actual hard work of getting the program in place, and I think we can say with pretty good confidence by beginning of 19 we'll have a new scheduling program in place for the frontline staff, which will help not only the scheduling team but also frontline staff in terms of visibility across the system. So really some great work done across the organization. And I think that we've taken a nice step forward here with some of these initiatives in the last few months. It's really good to see, and I think we're all pointed in the same direction of making sure that we are not only top of class but top of fitment as well across the system. So looking forward to these changes and your continued support. And there's a lot of hard work being done in each and every area of the company right now to support that. But to say that things are humming along nicely would be an understatement. We're really making great strides. So thank you to everyone, and I'll pass it back to Andy for questions.
Thanks, Rob. So we're going to move to the questions and answers session now, I'd remind you that there are several ways to ask your question. First, Rachel is standing by. If you wish to submit a question via email, please send it to rscott@ornge.ca, 2 T's in Scott. Secondly, for those of you who've dialed in, we'll give you an opportunity to ask your questions shortly. And for those of you watching on YouTube Live, if you have a question you'd like to ask, please dial into the meeting. So to ensure you're in sync, we'd ask that you pause the video now and dial in. Also, I want to point out that the entire Town Hall proceedings will be posted to Compass in the coming days, so you can catch whatever you might have missed. We did have one question submitted earlier while people warm up their typing fingers and dialing fingers. And that was a question about whether the peer support program and whether there would be some training for the members of the group. And I think that Rob is likely the person who's going to respond to that. Sorry, I put you on the spot, but I know you know the answer.
Yeah, I think Tom Walker has been doing some work in this area, and we're going to continue to strengthen that peer support team and look at how we can improve and enhance the training. I know he's been doing a lot of work on it with the team. So the question was not particularly specific, but I can say that we're fully supportive of that, and we'll continue to look at ways to improve the training and enhance the training so that we can be fully effective.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Okay. Why don't we then turn to questions in the cafeteria first? Are there people in the caf who might have a question and are brave enough to put up their hand? Going once? Sound like an auctioneer. Okay, in that case, then at the bases, Kenora, Thunder Bay, Moosonee, Timmins, Sudbury, London, Toronto, Ottawa, Markham, Peterborough, Ottawa. Okay, Rachel, anything coming in by email?
We got one.
Oh, sorry, Doug.
Just a question in regards to the NVG training, as far as currency for the training. Is there a certain amount of coaches or applying with the NVG they have to do, or is there a current training program? I'm just curious as to how the currency.
I think Rob's in the best position to answer, but the answer is yes. Any of the rotor wing flight managers here?
Peter's flying at Thunder Bay.
Okay.
There is a recurrent training program.
As you know, with any aviation skill, there is a currency requirement. We can get back to you on the specifics. I'm not the expert on it for sure, but
Yeah, that would be appreciated.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Debbie?
I'm asking what the travel benefits will they be offered to retirees?
I don't know. I don't know, actually.
The travel benefits for employees who are on non-business travel, will they be extended to someone who was an employee and is retired?
I don't know the answer to that question. But, I'll find out. But most of the benefit will be carbon, better than it is today. So we just renegotiated with Enterprise. So that will be coming up very shortly. That's a very good question.
We'll try and get you an answer, though, Debbie. Man, that may be the toughest question today. Yeah, we'll find out. Yes, in the back corner there.
So is there any plans for travel benefits for airlines?
The question was, are there any plans for travel benefits for airlines? In the end.
I remember that if you are an Aeroplan member, when you travel on company business, you get points. So if you're not an Aeroplan member, you should.
Or whatever the successor to Aeroplan is if you're traveling Air Canada.
To receive airline benefits, you need to have a reciprocal agreement, which means you need to provide transport for people.
So I'll just repeat what Rob said. So most airlines have a reciprocal arrangement with other companies, so in order to get benefits, you have to be able to provide some reciprocal benefit. As an air ambulance provider, it's tough to do that, so that's our challenge.
Curious
We sure would.
Just to add to Andre and Andy's comments, we do have discounts for hotels, travel, and WestJet through Perkopolis. So if you haven't signed up for Perkopolis, I encourage you to do so. Poke around. I think we get up to 15% on WestJet travel. So you can save a little bit of money that way. They don't check they don't check our information. So as long as you know your email and your login, you're fine.
Yeah, they definitely don't check.
I'm not going to tell them to cut you off. You'll be all right.
And if you join, there'll be some other information, but if you join Carlson, they have a website that we can be members of where you can get discounts through Carlson as well. And there's an app that everybody should download eventually, Carlson digital app, which a lot of people are using, which does provide some discounts, but it's a very competitive industry, so if you think you're getting a real discount on a hotel, I think again. We're not talking big discounts. I mean, when they say 15% on WestJet, yeah, 50% of the fun. But you do get a discount.
I've just communicated the language.
Yeah. Anything email-wise
Nothing through email.
on the line?
Nothing through the line.
All right, then. So the final thing I wanted to speak to is that we're all aware of the devastating crash that occurred in Saskatchewan. And I think there's been an outpouring of support countrywide and I would say internationally for the team and for the community, and certainly we want to be part of that. As an emergency service, I think there's a unique understanding of the devastation that's left behind by an event like this and the loss of life, and the people who carry on after it, both who have physical and emotional consequences of the accident. So, as you know, we announced yesterday that tomorrow is Team Jersey Day across Canada. And I would be remiss if I didn't speak as well to the fact that it's also Pink Shirt Day. I think tomorrow, Jen, have I got that right? Today, sorry. And so we're mindful of the desire that people will have to support both these things. But in particular, we would like to have a team photo taken immediately after the town hall. So those of you, and there's lots of orange jerseys in the room, would you head to the lobby and we'll get a team photo, which we will distribute. And we have about 100 jerseys that can be loaned to people who'd like to get into the photo. We would ask that if you do take or accept a jersey, that you consider making a donation. And James, or Josh, the GoFundMe page for Humboldt. You should be able to find it. It's okay, great. So there's a link in Josh's email, and I would encourage you to think about donating whatever you can afford to support the families and the survivors of the terrible crash that occurred. The bases are also invited to take photos with their team jerseys, if you would. And when you've done it, send them to Josh and Rachel, and they'll incorporate them on our official channel. And we will share the big photo from the lobby on social media tomorrow.
Andy, can I just add, for those of you watching on YouTube at the bases, you didn't receive the email yesterday with the GoFundMe page, but we're going to put that on Compass, so check Compass for that.
So with that, we'll close. Those of you who would like to be in the picture, please proceed to the lobby. And I thank you once again, very much for your attention and for all you do.